Normally stands forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.
Write your thoughts, dreams, and affirmations into existence with this powerful, practical reparations manifestation planner. Put 2023 plans into action with purpose.
The proofs are hot off the press and look fire, fam. Perfect planner to write reparations manifestations and any other New Year's resolutions, goals, and achievable aspirations. It's been stated, if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book or write it down. Let's break those stereotypical trash tropes.
Conjure our justice claim collectively in 2023. Believe it and achieve it. Cut the check. Reparations Now Planner. Available now at Amazon.com. Write it into existence this year with fam and friends.
All right. We are back.
Back in the building.
So we're going to be talking about the California Reparations Task Force meeting that was held in San Diego, California, January 27th and January 28th. And today is January 29th, 2023.
Yeah, so we are just fresh back from San Diego, 2-day Reparations Task Force hearing. It was their 12th meeting so far. And yeah, it was quite eventful.
Yeah, it was. If anyone hasn't had a chance to watch it, definitely go check it out right here on Amen the Mass Media Group. Please like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, there was 2 days and some very interesting topics that were discussed. So, but before we actually go into the recap, we just wanted to talk to the family about some other things. So I guess let's go. All right. From cotton to cannabis, still locked out. No more bootstrapping, equity only. That's right here on YouTube. You can check that out. And I guess let's go to other ones. We actually read the Repair Act, Executive Order 1865. Once again, on Amen the Mass Media Group, please check that one out as well. The planners, the hot off the press family. You can get your planners right now. Hit that QR code. We have it in black and USA, red, white, and blue. Write down all your manifestations for reparations, plus any other manifestations that you want to do. It's hot off the press, and you get those at Amazon right now.
Yeah, these planners are actually pretty therapeutic. To write your thoughts down. That's me and Miss Darlene there. As you can see at the hearing, we both have our cut the check reparation manifestations planners, and writing them down, and writing all of our manifestations into existence, and just taking, general notes on the proceedings at the task force. A couple of the words that I wrote down were domicile. That one was used in association with the residency discussion that they had, explaining the difference between a domicile and a residency. So those are some of the terms that they were looking at when, trying to figure out what the residency requirement will be for reparations out here in California. And another couple of words is high expectations, is what we have in implementing these proposals. So definitely have a high expectations. So those are just a couple of things that I keep at the forefront of, my mind as I go through this process.
Wonderful. All right. If you have a chance, also check out here the Corporate Plantations Confessions of a Black Employee. There was a Black woman who, I guess at the time, was working in Napa, California. And unfortunately, she got terminated for her position, and she was just airing out some of her grievances that she had at that particular time. And I guess she got that You're Black card that I'm sure we've all gotten throughout our life, and just gave her own 2 cents on that. And it's unfortunate. We also gave some statistics as well regarding Black employment. So if you have a chance, please go check that one out as well.
Mm-hmm. And another thing you might want to check out in regard to the corporate plantation, and any recourse you may have if you're in toxic workplace environments. Icy, I believe was her name, gave a powerful testimony at the Oakland hearing, talking about the DFEH, which is the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, where you can go to file grievances if you are, involved in discriminatory workplace practices. So go back and take a listen to some of the interviews that we posted, boots on the ground interviews posted from the Oakland hearing, which happened in December.
All right. And we had a wonderful conversation and discussion with Professor Thomas Kramer, who is currently part of the, I guess you want to call it, Finance Economic Committee with the task force. And we had a wonderful conversation. Disclosure, he's representing himself, so what he has to say is not based on the California Reparations Task Force in this conversation here on Even the Mass Media Group. So we wanted just to put that disclaimer out there that he's representing himself and not the California Reparations Task Force in this conversation. But yeah, we just want to talk to him, get his ideas about, him and this 6.6 quadrillion figure and exactly what that means and counting.
Yeah, counting, the compound interest just keeps compounding. So time to get this debt settled once and for all.
Yeah. So look out for that, because it's a really, really, really good, informative discussion that we had with him. It was good.
Yes, stay tuned for that. And then it looks like there's some news already coming out about.
Actually, could we go back before we
Oh,
actually go into this one? Yeah.
Going back.
Yeah, just
going
one
back.
more. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Going back to Kramer.
No, I think there was. Isn't there a recap one?
Oh,
I just wanna
recap. Yeah, the first recap.
Yeah, the first recap. So, we actually had a recap session. What's today? 29th? Yesterday, right? No. Was it the 27th? The first one was the 27th, right?
Yeah.
The first meeting. Okay. So we had a recap on the 27th with Antonio Harvey, who's a wonderful journalist who's been following the Reparations Task Force meeting.
Yeah, I believe
here.
he's been to all the in-person hearings
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah. And then we also have Josiah Williams, who's been a reparations advocate in Northern California in the Bay Area. So shout out to ARCC in the building.
Yes.
So
Josiah, who has also been to all of the in-person task force hearings. So they are just like a big family reunion when they come around.
Yeah, and shout out to all the ARCC family.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was a good build. So check that one out. We're actually, hopefully, crossing our fingers, going to be speaking with Josiah Williams and hopefully some of the other folks in the ARCC camp. Talk about the San Francisco reparations, some of those numbers, and kind of what's going on with that reparations movement out there.
All right. And then on to the news about reparations that's already coming out. We had an article from Fox News that was released January the 28th, published, it says. So that would have been yesterday, Saturday. Activists at California's slavery reparations meeting denounces proposed payment of $223 not enough. The Reverend Tony Pierce insisted $200,000 is not enough. $223,000 is not enough! Exclamation mark. California's Reparation Task Force met again on Friday in San Diego with public comment from speakers who urged bold action and for the state to go forward with payment to African Americans as repayment for slavery. After comments by Dr. Shirley Weber, California Secretary of State, one speaker blasted the suggested amount of $223 per resident as insufficient. Reverend Tony Pierce came to the microphone and slammed the idea of limiting the cash payouts to California residents. Quote, "There should be no residency requirements for California. We have to encourage our people to come back to California. What better way to encourage our people to come back to California if we have no requirements? How will reparations be paid?" he added, quote, "immediately," end quote. After being told that his time is up, Pierce yelled at the audience, and $200,000 is not enough. $223,000 is not enough. California Resident and Civil Justice Association of California member Marcus Champion. And I think what they were trying to put there is Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, which would be CJEC in there, but they have Civil Justice Association of California, but they're talking about Marcus Champion, our esteemed team member, and called for direct cash payments, tax exempt status, free college education, grants for home ownership, business grants, access to low to no business funding, and capital. He called for the creation of an Office of American Freedmen Affairs to handle eligibility on reparations. Speaker Josiah Williams, a member of the American Redress Coalition of the California Bay Area, called for a specific targeting of the reparations claim. Quote, "I wanted to add that if there is anyone else who has their own claim, they can definitely write it up. get someone to champion it, and I would support them in that effort, end quote, he said. Quote, but this is for a specific group of people, end quote. So those are just some of the article quotes that came out of this article from Fox News.
Yeah, very interesting. Coalition, or no, he didn't even say, he said Civil Justice Association of California. Look, family. And look, let's just be real. And shout out to Chairperson Moore, Camila Moore, when she talked about excellence, you know, high standards, especially when it comes to information. And she was, if people didn't see the task force meeting, please go back and see it. I don't want to have to reiterate what I'm saying, so please watch it. And so I don't want to repeat myself. But in this case, as Camila Chair Moore was saying, look, this I don't know if it's disinformation or misinformation, but CJAC, Civil Justice Association of California, as a journalist, this is not correct. This is an atrocity, and I'm not just saying that just because, you know, it's talking about CJ. I'm just saying that if you're going to quote an organization or an advocacy group or even people's names, you should at least try to do a little better, you know, to get it right. Because, I mean, people might be looking this up and being like, well, who is this? You know, you're quoting somebody and you're not even quoting exactly where the source is from. So anyway,
definitely need to get the language right. So that's for these journalists out there, and additionally anyone who's putting out, you know, communications on behalf of the task force, which again, you can roll back the proceedings and see that there was a discussion on, you know, what needs to happen as far as communications moving forward and the high expectations that we expect.
Yeah, and that also includes in the mass media group. If there's something that needs to be corrected our end, we have no qualms and no issues with, you know, putting out correct information.
Yeah, so please,
all we ask is please have a source with that. Just don't be making stuff up. That's all I have to say. But if you got a source to back that up, then cool, we'll rock with it.
All right. Well, were there some other highlights that you wanted to touch base on from the Saturday proceedings?
In particular with this article?
No, just with the overall, if you've got the agenda ready to look at and go over.
Okay, we can do that, but maybe we can, or did you want to, because I know we had a couple more slides you wanted to go through, or did you want to start with the agenda? It's up to you.
Yeah, with the agenda, and then we can kind of touch base at some touch points.
Okay, well, before we do that, I want to play an audio clip from Lakshmi Sarah. She's actually her and, is it Annalise? I think it's Annalise from KQED. Is that right, Kim?
Yes.
KQED?
Yes.
Okay. And so I believe they actually been to all the in-person California Reparations Task Force meetings. So I definitely want to give them a shout out because they have definitely been boots on the ground. And just in my opinion, I think they've done a great job of just, you know, giving the information and not necessarily being biased one way. But I just wanted to play this clip that I actually heard this morning regarding the California Reparations Task Force. So here we go.
Black residents for the impact of anti-Black policies. From member stations KQED, Lakshmi Shera reports from San Diego.
California's Reparations Task Force has about 5 months left to make recommendations to the state legislature. The panel is tackling 2 issues. What should reparations look like and who should get them? They've already decided reparations will be lineage-based. Now they're working to refine some additional questions like residency. Secretary of State Shirley Weber, who helped create the Reparations Task Force as a member of the State Assembly, gave an opening address.
Because if you don't push it forward, it loses its momentum. and you don't want to kill yourself by time.
The panel voted to take another year to implement its work, but the state legislature will need to approve that extension. For NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Sarah.
See, there you go. It seems like the word is definitely getting out. And, you know, and we appreciate, you know, any media that wants to report on the California Reparations Task Force, because I think, you know, I don't know how you feel, Kim, but, you know, I just really appreciate anybody, you know, who's putting the word out, especially getting exposure about this very important discussion and challenge that America's had for the past 400 plus years to get this resolved.
Right. And putting out accurate, unbiased information. KQED definitely want to give them their flowers on that. And not only have they been covering all of the task force hearings, but they've also made it to some of our listening sessions, community listening sessions, to cover that as well. So really community-based coverage, doing a great job.
Okay. Also, I'd like to play a clip, Kim, if you don't mind removing this screen here, and I'll go ahead and play a clip from the task force meeting.
Okay.
Oh, you need to remove the clip.
Oh.
Okay. All right, there we go. All right, so this is a clip from the task force meeting that I want to play from our esteemed comrade, our brother, Chris Lodson. So let's go ahead and play this.
Next speaker.
Thank you very much. Chris Lodson, just one of the lead organizers with the Coalition for Just and Equitable California. I have had the pleasure of meeting with, I think, almost every single one of you, so I'm not going to speak for too long, but I want to say a couple of things. First, I want to speak to you, and then I also want to speak to the folks behind me too, and the folks that are watching publicly. First thing to you, I want to thank you, each and every single one of you, for your time, for your sacrifice. I know this is tough work. This is God's work. You're putting in time, hours for zero pay, and this is hard. And you're doing something that's never been done before. Each one of you, there's never been somebody like you in the position that you're in, because we've never done something like this before. So I want to appreciate each and every single one of you for every single year. Right, definitely. Show them some love. Secondly, to everybody, we as James Brown said, we're in a very critical and crucial time right now for the reparations movement. A very sensitive time. There are powerful forces organizing right now to stop what we're going to do. Now is the time to be working together, to be loving on each other, to be connecting with each other, and not tearing each other apart. Now is the time to work together. Last thing I'll say is thank you for voting for lineage-based reparations eligibility. Please do more. Right on. Please do more for reparations, to combat reparations misinformation. I want to also thank you again for acknowledging us as a specific group of people, those who descend from U.S. slavery. The Office of Management and Budget with the U.S. Census just yesterday or just last week released their initial proposals for how they might change the 2030 U.S. Census. And they said, one of their first things they said is disaggregate the Black/African-American category and create a specific place and a specific space for those who descend from U.S. slavery. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. All right, next speaker.
Greetings. Brother Assembly, I think you stepped out yesterday when I mentioned about the 2 prisons that you shut down in California. I asked for you guys to propose something that's releasing our prisoners so we can have our own staff there, so we can rehabilitate them ourselves, because that's one of the part of the reparations is to rehabilitate. Now, the last one would be never again. That's the last part of reparations. How's it going to be never again when we have 250 plus militia groups here in America? Ukraine was harboring them when they was getting felonies. They was running over there, and God be the glory. They thought they was going to come back and do the revolution against us, but Russia bit them. So we saying that here in California, we have RAM, Rise Up, or whatever. Those guys exist. We got all these white militia groups here, and how are we going to feel safe? They're already doing as they did us in Buffalo. A young guy shot 10 people. They were just going to the grocery store. So how we gonna feel safe once we get all this money? I see how we gonna be. I tell you how we gonna be real safe. We gonna be like the natives. We want our own land. Y'all want to live with the white people? You can live with them. But I want to go back to my hood and live with all black people. Recycle my money for 30 days. You know, recycle, and not just we don't want just casinos. We have 75 Black Wall Streets. We can do it. Just give us the land. Y'all can figure the money out later. Okay, so another thing, UCLA, the Bunch Center. I mean, first of all, that's disrespectful. It should be the Bunchy, Carter, and John Huggins Center because they was assassinated there by the COINTELPRO. Now, are you guys scared of these people? The FBI, the CIA, or whatever? They come in our neighborhood and shoot at us too. When y'all gonna stop? When y'all gonna point the finger at them? Kamala Harris, where you at? Kamala, the VP. You put all us blacks in jail here in California. Why don't you go after these white people? This not no unsolved mystery. This mystery's been solved. Y'all just have to go and get these crooks. They're the ones who turned us into. We had social clubs back in the day.
Excuse me, sir. I'm so sorry. Sorry to interrupt you in the middle of your sentence. Thank you so much for your powerful statement. Next speaker, please.
I can listen
All
listen to
I know.
all again. I mean, they just all dropping gems in the public comment for sure. But we're really getting down to the brass tacks. This is where the rubber meets the road. And yeah, it's time to implement some of these proposals. So it really is crunch time.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I think, you know, maybe we could do like a sit down session as we bumping the music right now. I think we can have like a sit down session, and I would actually like to do, you know, public comments, just go through them just one day. Obviously, maybe we'll do that after, you know, the last in-person session comes up March 3rd and 4th is the next California Reparation in-person task force meeting right here in Sacramento, California, March 3rd and March 4th.
Yes, that was also determined at the meeting. They took a vote to change the date, and it looks like it will be in Sacramento, you know, taking a celebratory picture here with Dr. Amos Brown and Chair Camilla Moore, letting them know how happy I am that they, you know, established the dates for the Sacramento. And also, when they come out to Sacramento, another little thing, we'll let you in on a little inside baseball. We're planning to screen our documentary Reparations Now at the upcoming hearing in Sacramento. So stay tuned for more information on that. I'm trying to pull it together now that we have the official dates set.
Exactly. And let's not forget about our comrade, CO Thomas in the building.
CO in the building. Yes,
CO.
yes. She is a ETM member. I'm like, okay. She's like, oh, am I still in the group? Because she's been on a little bit of a hiatus. We don't always see her on the shows, but she does come through every now and again. She's like, oh, am I still in the group? I'm like, it's like Hotel California. Not get out.
Hotel
and
California.
Where to be in Sacramento, and looking forward to it. Like I said, these hearings are like one big family reunion.
Absolutely. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to get my screen ready here, and we'll go to talk about this information. Let me see here. So yeah, thanks family for tuning in. Hopefully this will be an informative discussion. And if y'all have any information that we should know about regarding reparations in general, the task force, just anything, hit us up at etnmediagroup@gmail.com, etnmediagroup@gmail.com, and we will try to get back with you as soon as we possibly can. So let's go ahead. I'm going to... Is my screen okay? Is it large enough? Is that good? Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. All right. So here we go. So the first day, actually 2 days, January 27th, January 28th. Once again, if you happen to miss the hearings, you can go right here on MN the Mass Media Group and check out the 2-day hearings. And let's go to the, I guess let me mention also as well, if you have any comments that you want to send to the task force, just click on these links here, oag.ca.gov/AB3121. You can also reach the task force and contact the DOJ at reparationstaskforce@doj.ca.gov or 213-519-0504. And I guess I'll read this further. If you need information or assistance with accommodation requests, please contact DOJ at least 5 calendar days before the scheduled meeting. So once again, if you need some assistance and you'll be in attendance, please reach out to the DOJ. Once again, that's reparationstaskforce, Reparations Task Force at doj.ca.gov or 213-519-0504.
Right, and you can, I know the public comment, everybody doesn't always get a chance because time is limited, but you can always provide your public comment by calling or emailing the DOJ at that contact information that you just provided.
Right. So I know and we had a great discussion with Antonio Harvey and Josiah Williams, as mentioned earlier, so definitely check that out. But Kim, did you have any comments or anything like that before we actually go just scroll down these questions, or is there a specific item that you wanted to talk about, or you had some positive things about it or some things you wanted to challenge?
Well, again, like I said, it was quite eventful. I did not catch your first recap, so I'm not sure what you guys all touched base on. So maybe if you could talk about some of what you talked about, I could let you know how I felt about it.
Well, basically, we just went over the questions here, and we gave our response in terms of what we think. And we actually like to hear from the community to see what was actually discussed, if that's, see what y'all think about it, see if that's something that's viable for the community. I mean, this, California residency is a very, it's a hard and it's a challenging thing to do. I know sometimes people think, well, just do it, but I mean, we're talking about the government, we're dealing with the government, we're dealing with legislation, we're dealing with different people, right? So all these things need to be, properly discussed, properly thought out, and then presented, to a body. So
yeah, taken into consideration. There were several ideas thrown out about residency from the time that you got there, whether people, if they left due to some of these harms, like, being priced out, gentrified out, if they would be eligible. In the, as you heard from the Fox News article, the Reverend was saying that there should be no residency. So that was his opinion on the matter, that there should be no residency at all. Some other proposals were that residency start from the time that Governor Gavin Newsom signed the AB 3121 bill into legislation. That was in September 2020. So if you had residency established prior to that, you could possibly be eligible under that model. Yeah, and again, like I said, discuss the difference between domicile and residency. Residency could be that you're just coming out here for a specific reason, specific length of time, like going to school, but not necessarily to live. So they have to take that into consideration versus domicile, where you are set up to live here and set roots. So yeah, there's a lot to be discussed, and I think, that's still an ongoing conversation. Weren't able to come to any consensus on what the residency or domicile will look like.
Right. So those are some of the things that we talked about. We also talked about the communication effort that's happening right now with the California Reparations Task Force. And, just a little side note regarding the Communications Task Force. And look, it's a heavy lift, right? It's a very heavy lift. So, no shade to the Charles, group, because really and truly, they haven't been here in the beginning, right?
Right.
So
They're relatively new to this process. Anybody who's been following this know that there have been other communications groups selected that have recused themselves from the process. So I think the Charles group might be the third, which I believe maybe three is a charm. But there was just a discussion about some of the high expectations that are expected when disseminating this information about the task force and getting it out. I mean, one thing in a statute that really stuck out was, it looked like some of the language was changed, which Chair Moore pointed out, changed from African American maybe to Black American. I know that those terms are interchangeable, have been interchangeable historically, but now, when we're talking about legislation, we have to be very precise in the language that we're using and remain consistent. So those are just some of the things, but I think we had a discussion about it and moving forward. Hopefully they can keep those things in mind.
Right. And the reason why I mentioned that, because as Kim and I were coming back from lunch to the proceedings, I can't remember if it was day 1 or day 2. I want to say it was day 2. And so, we were approaching people ourselves to say, hey, do you know what's going on here in San Diego? They were, I don't know, they were pretty much around the vicinity. And so, there were 3 Black women, and we approached them. We're like, hey, and they were like, oh yeah, we don't know what that is. What's the We're like, no, really? So anyway, we handed them some information, and they went around and about their way. But I mean, that's a challenge, right? When you're thinking about, you have 3 Black women. I don't know. I'm guessing they're descendants. I don't know. But just even giving them the information, and they're residents of San Diego. Not only are they residents of San Diego, they were literally within not even a minute from where we
they
were
right there. They were
mean?
there. They could have been attending the
Right.
the hearing and didn't know anything about it. So the information, people do need to be aware of it. We get the information out as best as we can, in addition to our CJEC, affiliate groups, which there was a caller that called in to testify. They gave a shout out to CJEC and AASDLA and ETM. So we know we're getting the information, but needs to be a wider reach, and in mass media circles. I mean, everybody's not on Twitter and some of the spaces that we're at.
Yeah, that's and it's very important. I mean, I know people who advocate for reparations, I mean, and we are making movement, right? We are making movement. I mean, it wouldn't be here if people who advocate and are allies for, reparations weren't pushing it, right? But we just really have to think about the broader scope of the society too as well. Like, if we're not actually out beyond just online and being in these Twitter spaces, which, by the way, I don't really do Twitter anyway, but
yeah, see, like I said, everybody's not on Twitter.
Yeah, everybody's not on Twitter.
And some of the spaces that we're at. So hopefully we'll see a lot more information coming out leading to the Sacramento hearing in March. And as Chair Moore said, it seems promising after having the discussion with Charles Communications Group. The plan that they laid out, that seemed promising. So stay tuned.
Exactly. And for day one, we briefly actually talked about, what else did we talk about? I guess there were two presenters as well. They don't actually have their names here, and I can't remember their names either. But they were talking about people who are very wealthy regarding tax law considerations.
Oh yeah, they had some interesting ideas coming out on the tax experts there. One of which, also written down here in my reparations manifestation planner, again available on Amazon.com, mentioned a 501c40 fund, like a 501c3, but a 501c40, which would be a designation, kind of like a nonprofit designation where philanthropists can donate to the cause directly and receive tax benefits. So that was one, interesting idea about a possible way to fund reparations movement.
Absolutely.
Now, my thought on that, of course, is that, this is a tab for the federal government. Uncle Sam can't let him off the hook, so it can't all be philanthropic donations. The federal government does need to cut the check, but this could be another avenue to, bolster the fund to keep things going.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And I wanted to go back actually to the California residency part, right? So the ultimate goal is the repair or reparations through the federal government, as you mentioned. Instead of philanthropic. That's great.
Right.
But the federal government is responsible for this whole thing.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day. So I know people are going to be left out of the California reparations residency, and some people may not get it, but we can't fret, and we have to look at the eyes on the prize. This is just a step, right? It's a stepping stone to the eventual goal of federal reparations being paid out, to those who descend from chattel slavery here in the United States. So I definitely want to mention that. Not saying that, California and other states can't do some repairing themselves, and also local municipalities, which, by the way, were talked about as well. I mean, I think we briefly talked about the municipalities as well. San Francisco, Berkeley, and Sacramento were day one. Did you want to briefly touch on that before we go to day two?
Yeah, I had some interesting ideas. I know if you've been paying attention to reparations activity, you may have heard about the San Francisco recommendations that came out from their advisory board or our task force commission, whatever they're calling it, for $5 million a resident. So that was one suggestion that came out that has been getting a lot of, like I said, discussion. Berkeley had an interesting idea around the idea of home ownership. They said that they talked about like maybe, people who are in apartments or dwelling units like that, if they could be turned into condos, would be a way for people to get home ownership status, without being moved around or having to move around. And I thought that was an interesting idea if they could pull that out. So, just really some ideas coming out. Would see how they could be implemented, but all of these cities are definitely thinking of some ideas. As far as the city of Sacramento, it sounded like, Kelly Fong-Rivas gave a presentation. She's the diversity advisor to the mayor out here. Wants to hear from the community. They say they want to hear from the community on what reparations could look like, and that's from everything from forming a commission. So we're definitely putting our heads together on that to present some ideas on what reparations could look like in the city of Sacramento. So there hasn't been a lot of activity. I mean, they're, conducting some meetings and things of that nature, but ultimately it sounds like they want to leave it up to community input on what should happen. And I've definitely got some ideas that I will be sharing.
All right. And we might have talked about, I don't think we went in detail on the day one recap with member Tamaki about the public and formal apologies recommendations. But yeah, that's pretty much what we discussed was day one.
Okay, like I said, it was chock full information that day one. So definitely need to stay on track, see what these proposals are going to look like on the local and state level.
Exactly. And we encourage you to pick up the, you want to call it, reparation advocacy in your local area too. I mean, that's where it starts.
Yeah,
right?
Check out and see what's going on locally. Definitely want to be informed. Like you said, the people in San Diego, well, I guess San Diego really doesn't have anything going on, so that I know of officially. But yeah, definitely look into what your municipality are doing locally and get involved.
Get involved. All right, so here we go. Day 2, January 28th, which was held yesterday. And so let's see here. Let's see. Final recommendation, potential remedy program, laws and apologies for atrocities in the interim report, part 2, presenters, all task force members. Master list of policy proposals. So I guess you want to briefly touch on this, your thoughts?
Well, the main policy proposal discussed, of interest. And let's see, I think we've got some information about it. Here is the American Freedmen's Bureau or agency proposal. Let's see here. The task force did end up taking a vote on that proposal. And let's just recap really quickly. Here's a tweet from Chair Moore. This was on January 28th, which was yesterday, and it reads, the committee did approve a recommendation Saturday that would create a new state agency, the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, which would oversee and monitor any future reparations legislation as well as process reparations claims. So that's good news there. But there was some concessions to be made on that. You'll have to roll back the tape. But one idea that was presented was to, see where there might be any overlap with existing state agencies that, could get a Freedman type carve out. Which some people have reservations about because it's like, okay, well, these existing state agencies are not serving our needs currently. So, I mean, there's always that, like I said, reservation that if they're not doing it now, why would, would be mistrustful that they would do it effectively in the future. And everybody just kind of was hoping more so for a full-on American Freedmen Agency exclusive to our needs. But in the end, the vote ended up being that there would be some carve-out agencies that already exist, maybe like social services. Like I said, all of this is to be determined. We are in the very preliminary stages of seeing what that would look like, but it does look like there's going to be a combination of each. So if the entity doesn't already exist, like there is no genealogy state office, so that could be wrapped under the Freedmen Affairs, things of that nature. So, just not recreating the wheel, but we'll have to have further discussion on what exactly that will look like. Definitely a lot of research to be done in that arena.
Yeah, definitely a lot of research. And, it's just really interesting that when we're talking about setting up, something like this, which, by the way, has already been done here in the United States. But obviously, we knew what happened to that situation. Or for those, okay, let me not assume. I don't want to know. Most people who are probably listening to this probably know or knew what happened to the Freedmen's Bureau. But, just to sum it up, the Freedmen's Bureau Agency was created after Reconstruction to prepare those who came out of enslavement and for those other freed blacks at the particular time. And it was basically a debacle and it got ransacked. I'm just going to summarize it just as such. We'll probably go into further detail on the Freedmen Agency. As a matter of fact, I'm currently working on a presentation regarding a federal Freedmen's Bureau. And so we'll go deeper into that. But I mean, just the atrocities that freedmen, black, African Americans have faced here in the United States have been atrocious. And I'm just saying, for me, this is my just personal opinion. I'm not representing anybody. But I feel like we just we just need a full-on, Freedmen's Bureau Agency, period. Like, we don't need anything else to go under anything else. Because
I would tend to agree with you, but as you know, I'm just trying to streamline and see where things could fit. But definitely a full service Freedmen's Office would be the ideal. And like you said, this isn't something new. This is really just restitution, just reviving the office that was dismantled, I believe, after 7 short years, if I'm not mistaken. So that definitely was not enough time for that agency to do what it needed to do to get the emancipated, persons the resources that they needed.
Yeah, I mean, I could see definitely some carve outs, and I could definitely see where it may work in some situations. But once again, you're talking about, I mean, we talked about the corporate plantation, right? Mm-hmm. And we talking about working in environments where, we've been harmed. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you just gonna throw us again in the same scenario where we're being harmed again, where there's no accountability. We're just in the same scenario, same process. So I get it. I mean, I'm just saying, this is just my opinion, right? This is just totally my opinion that, I mean, maybe we could set up, the Freedmen's Bureau Agency, and then from there, allocate certain resources to those particular departments where, quote unquote, diversity is lacking, right? Within the freedmen. That might be a possibility where we can actually contract out with some of these state agencies to make sure that the freedmen there. But we definitely need this Freedmen Bureau's agency to make sure that, we're keeping an eye out on every single thing that is happening to make sure that our people who've been damaged are taken care of. So that was it.
Right. We don't want, history to repeat itself. And I think it's worth mentioning that the Freedmen's Office originally was, Affairs Office was signed into law on March 3rd, which coincides with the dates that the California Reparations Task Force will be here in Sacramento. So, everything seems to be coming full circle. But that was the day that the Freedmen's Office was, activated. So now it needs to be reactivated and revived. And we need to figure out what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay. And let's see what else was discussed on Saturday. They also had a vote the task force did on a possible extension of the task force, which would extend it out for 1 year from the sunset date being upcoming June of this year, 2023, July 1st, 2023 to June, July 1st, 2024. And, they were able to have a discussion about it, which is a good thing. I think that was just the problem with, AB 2296, which, if you aren't familiar with that was a bill that Reginald Jones Sawyer, Assemblyman, put forward to extend the task force date, but it also had some provisions to remove task force members that we did not find favorable. And also the bill was presented without being discussed, without the full task force body being able to discuss it. So I thought it was interesting that they were able to sit down and have that discussion. And upon having that discussion, the task force members were favorable with an extension, but just with certain provisions in place. For one, that it would be a implementation period where this is a time just to implement the proposals and not make any changes to the existing recommendations that are made in the final report, and no change to the date that the final report is due, simply just to be there to implement these proposals. And, everybody pretty much agreed with it. They voted on that as well. Again, there were 8 aye votes and 1 abstention. And that abstention, I believe, was from Reginald Jones Sawyer. So, I don't know what to make of that. I mean, if you want the extension, here's your opportunity to vote aye, but it went through anyways. It would still have to go through the legislative process, as you heard in the report from Latsy Sarah earlier that we played today. It would still need to go through the legislative process to be approved. But again, after having a transparent discussion, the task force was in favor of it.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that in when you're talking about this reparations space is transparency. Right. And unfortunately, the task force members weren't, made aware of this decision in the beginning by, Jones Sawyer. And so just based on that, it just ruined the level of trust, right? Instead of just coming up and say, hey, by the way, let's discuss, because this could have been resolved like in the very beginning, right? We wouldn't even had to come back to this topic, but I'm glad they were able to resolve it and move on, and hopefully this won't impede or hurt the process, which I don't think it will. It sounds like it's not going to, by extending the current legislation.
Right, but they do have to go back to square one, which, this could have been a done deal with just a monochrome of transparency in the first place. And I mean, he said something about he didn't know if it would be against, Bagley Keene if he were to lobby to other task force members. But that's why you have an expert parliamentarian on staff. Could have just reached out to, and I forget her name.
Are you talking about Johnson?
Yes. What is her name?
Johnson.
Just Johnson.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was just calling Mrs. Johnson.
Miss Johnson. Okay, Miss Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah, just send a note to Miss Johnson. Say, hey, well, what is allowed and not allowed here. But you just to get some clarification before you go, just making moves in secrecy.
Right. That's true. I mean, that's what the DOJ is there for, right?
Right. They're there to assist you with the questions you have and get clarification.
Exactly. They also talked about some of the policy proposals, which was pretty extensive.
Yeah, I believe there's 100 pages in total. Yeah. So go back through the meeting materials. They should be there for you to review. This is all public information. So definitely a lot of proposals from education, was one of them that they talked about, and you know, the integration of the school system. So it's a lot to be ironed out. I don't think anything was set in stone at these meetings, so a lot of work to still be done.
Right. And so once they have obviously the final policy proposals, you know, we'll go ahead, we'll discuss it here on Amen the Mass Media Group. We'll probably go ahead and also read those proposals once the final report is finalized. And just like we did the marathon read here on this channel, if you haven't had a chance to listen to the report, or if you haven't read the report, you can go right here on Amen the Mass Media Group and listen while you're doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah, you definitely, you know, want to be familiar with this information in the interim report.
Exactly. So I think that's pretty much it, unless there's anything that you wanted to discuss.
Oh, I think that's pretty much it. Like I said, it was a very eventful hearing proceeding. So go back and roll back the tape on ETM Media. Take a look for yourself. We're just giving you, you know, some highlights from the 2-day proceeding.
Exactly. So I guess on that note, family, you guys have a wonderful day. We'll be actually, before I forget, I was gonna forget, but I gotta let the family know. We try to, while we're out, boots on the ground at the meeting, actually go out and talk to the community. So we had a wonderful discussion with Bishop. I always call him Pastor, but it's Bishop Williams out in the Bay Area, who's been advocating for reparations. I don't know, Kim. I'm just guessing probably 40 plus years for sure.
I've heard him say 50 years. And
Have you heard him say 50?
Yeah, stuck out in my mind, because I'm like, he's been doing this for a very long time. And he's still at it. So, you know, hopefully we can get to some kind of resolution while he's still with it, because he's definitely passionate about this cause. So I'm looking forward to see the interview when we get that up on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, we had a great discussion. Unfortunately, he's actually made a couple of public comments. I think he made one. Was this first one in San Francisco? I can't remember, but I know he was definitely at the reparations rally that we had here in Sacramento.
Yes,
he spoke
he was
there
at the reparations rally, and he's present in the Bay Area. Like you said, that's where he's at. So he came all the way out to San Diego to make a comment. And yeah.
So I definitely wanted to
in this fight.
Oh, definitely. And I definitely wanted to capture his story while we had him there. I was like, you know, let's sit down and talk. And we also spoke with Dr. Truth Bay. We actually had her on the platform previously in Los Angeles. We spoke to her, but we wanted to follow with her on some updates to see what's going on with her and her movement and her organizations that she's involved with. We also had a discussion with Jay. Jay 6 zeros. Jay had 6 zeros. So we had a chance to sit down, chop it up with him. Good build. And we actually also, I can't forget, we actually spoke with Bishop Williams' son. I believe his name was Thomas, don't quote me. But we actually had, you know, a discussion with him as well. And so we definitely appreciated everybody giving their time and energy, not only in this reparation space, but giving the people in the community some necessary information that we all should be aware of.
Yeah, and speaking of 6zeros.net, there was a brief discussion, and like I said, you will have to roll back the tape, or maybe we'll be able to find some clips to share with you in the near future, but a brief discussion on, you know, what reparations could look like for Black media, and being able to, you know, build and support our own Black media outlets, so we can discuss and talk about the issues that are important to our community, without, just being able to speak freely about what's impacting our community without, oversight, and being able to carve out our own. So I'd be interested to see what that proposal could look like, supporting and sustaining Black media.
Exactly. And we actually did briefly talk about that with Jay at 6-0. So that was a good build as well. So we briefly touched on that.
Look for that. A lot of information coming out about these meetings. And now that you have the dates for Sacramento, if you're in the area or can get to the area, this could possibly be the last in-person meeting. But I think there's still some discussion around that as well. So again, you need to just stay tuned for the latest updates.
Facts. All right, family. Well, once again, you have a wonderful afternoon, evening, wherever you're at, morning, depending on what part of the world you're at and you're listening to it right now. Be safe, be blessed. And on that note, family, peace and reparations.
Peace and reparations.
Write your thoughts, dreams, and affirmations into existence with this powerful, practical reparations manifestation planner. Put 2023 plans into action with purpose.
The proofs are hot off the press and look fire, fam. Perfect planner to write reparations manifestations and any other New Year's resolutions, goals, and achievable aspirations. It's been stated, if you want to hide something from a Black person, put it in a book or write it down. Let's break those stereotypical trash tropes.
Conjure our justice claim collectively in 2023. Believe it and achieve it. Cut the check. Reparations Now Planner. Available now at Amazon.com. Write it into existence this year with fam and friends.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have Black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total Black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, but I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically Black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.